They've inserted Asuka into what should be the TLC main event for the Smackdown Women's Championship, first ever women's TLC match, which makes it a triple threat pitting Becky Lynch against Charlotte against Asuka. And I think the chances are pretty good that that's going to end up being your main event, especially with no Brock Lesnar on this show. And you add in the fact that the last time the WWE Championship headlined a pay-per-view, and I don't mean like Daniel Bryan last month wrestling Brock Lesnar in the main event, because that wasn't for the title. But like the last time the WWE Championship was actually defended in the main event, you'd have to go all the way back before WrestleMania to that Fastlane pay-per-view in March. So that doesn't bode well for the chances of AJ and Daniel Bryan being positioned as the main event. Charlotte, here on this show, did not do anything to earn another shot at the women's title other than beating up Ronda Rousey after their match at Survivor Series, and she beat up the Iconics last week. She really should have been included in that Battle Royal if we want any of this to make any sense, but, you know how that goes. But I'll say this, if anything, it just makes Becky look like a genius. It just looks like Becky was speaking truth to power, because she's been saying for months, right, in storyline, that Charlotte has had things handed to her. She hasn't earned them. Well, in this case, she's right. She was just gifted another shot at the championship without having really done anything to earn it. So they can sort of play that into the storyline if they want to. They ended the show. They had a qualifying battle royal for the TLC main event with the women on the Smackdown roster. The woman who was the last person standing would be added to the championship match at TLC, which is a TLC match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte. Did they need to add somebody to this match? Did that match really need a third wheel added to it? It didn't. However, Asuka picked up the win here in this battle royal. Another person used and abused, chewed up and spat out by the SmackDown writing for much of 2018. She's been on the back burner. She's been dancing. She's been mocked for her accent in backstage segments. All the things that you would think not to do with someone like Asuka, they have done with her. And somehow she has maintained her popularity. To her credit. To her credit. She continues to come out and get big reactions. If they have a segment where the entire roster is lined up together in the ring and they call each person out, they introduce each person one by one, every single time Asuka gets the biggest reaction. Asuka comes out, she gets a nice reaction from the crowd. They haven't completely destroyed whatever it is, whatever appeal it is that she took with her when she left NXT and came to SmackDown. So it came down to her and Sonya Deville. She eliminated Sonya, Asuka picked up the win, and now it will be Becky, Charlotte, and Asuka for the championship at TLC in 2 weeks. Now my first thought is, well, clearly Asuka is in there to kind of take the losing fall, but then you realize that if it is under traditional TLC rules for a championship match, they've had TLC matches before where you can win by pin or submission, but when there's a championship involved, it's traditional ladder match rules. The championship is suspended above the ring, and the only way to win is to climb up and retrieve the title. So if we are to assume that this match is following the same rules, Asuka's not going to be in there to get pinned. She's not going to be in there to be made to submit. We'll find out. I mean, look, maybe they're going to change things and change the rules. But if they don't, she's not exactly in there to take the losing fall, per se. But I do think that in a way she is, because however they're going to work this finish, I don't think it's just going to be straight up, Charlotte knocking Becky off the ladder and just winning the championship. It could be a case where, Becky is down and Asuka somehow is the one to be knocked off or bumps into Becky or something like that, gives an excuse to say that Becky Lynch didn't exactly lose clean. Because I think, if you were to ask me now, what do I think is going to happen here? What do I think should happen? If I had to make an early prediction and tell you what I would do, I know some people will be upset about this, but I think the way to go here is to get that championship off of Becky and put it on Asuka, and not put it on Asuka, but put it on Charlotte. Get the championship off of Becky. Maybe there's a big table spot or something. Becky is down. It comes down to Charlotte and Asuka. And Charlotte ends up winning the women's championship for what? The 8th time, I guess it would be. 8th time, 9th time. Why would I do that? Well, because I still believe very strongly the pathway here is to have Becky Lynch throw her name into the hat in the Women's Royal Rumble and have her win the Royal Rumble. Have her eliminate Nia Jax to win the Royal Rumble. Charlotte is the SmackDown Women's Champion, which means, by the way, at the Rumble, you can now do champion versus champion, have your rematch from the Survivor Series. Ronda Rousey seeking revenge on Charlotte. Non-title, big match, right? Big rematch between those two. We could talk about what the finish would be. Probably not having a decisive finish. But that's a big match to do at Chase Field at the Royal Rumble. Meanwhile, Becky wins, and Becky now can choose. I don't think there's going to be too much drama in who she would choose, but there would at least be some. She could choose Charlotte and try to get back the championship that she feels maybe she never really lost. Or she could choose to go to Raw and challenge Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's title, which is exactly what she would do. That's the pathway that I like on the road to WrestleMania. And then you could do Charlotte Asuka 2 for the championship, the SmackDown title, at WrestleMania. But to do that, she's got to lose the title first. And there's a way to do it without it hurting her at all. It doesn't hurt her. It doesn't kill her momentum if she loses the championship in a way that people think maybe is not exactly the most fair way in the world. Case in point, the people who like to make comparisons between Becky and Stone Cold, right? Which, again, I think is overblown. But, okay, let's take Stone Cold Steve Austin as an example. Here's a guy who had crowd support. He had a lot of momentum behind him. Look at all the times. Austin never had a long reign as champion. He was champion 6 or 7 times. I'd have to go back and see what the longest stretch of time was that he had the championship for. Because I don't think it was very long at all. You look at the first time he won the championship in 98, he lost it to Kane only, 3 months later? Won it back, held it for another 2 or 3 months, lost it again. Won the championship back at WrestleMania 15, dropped it 2 months later. Won the championship back on Raw, dropped it 2 months later. My point is, when Austin dropped the championship, he got screwed over by Vince McMahon, Undertaker and Kane. Remember the whole double pin at Breakdown? That led to the Deadly Game tournament. And, Austin was in the position to chase. They felt that was the right position for him to be in, not to be champion going into WrestleMania, but to be the one chasing for the championship. And that was the right move to make. I mean, now that I think about it, I guess the longest run Austin would have had probably was in 01. Probably, right? Because he held that title from WrestleMania all the way to Unforgiven, I think it was. But you didn't have Stone Cold having the title like AJ Styles did for a year. They wanted Austin to be in the position to chase. He was screwed, and now people badly wanted to see him win that championship back. And you could apply the same logic here. Becky does not have to be the champion going into the Rumble or going into WrestleMania. You could build to her winning the championship there. There's nothing wrong with taking the title off her here and putting it on Charlotte.